Woo! What's up, people? Guess what? You're listening to another episode of the Giants Guys. I've got Spiro. I've got Eli in the lab with me tonight. We've given Michael Stewart and Mikey Fresh the night off because we are going to chop it up with a very special guest from ESPN, the quarterback guru. Welcome in, Dan Orlovsky. Dan, what's happening, my friend? Oh, no. Did I lose Dan?
I'm here.
How are you?
I'm here. I'm doing great. What an intro, right? I'm doing great. Good to be with you guys.
No, thanks for the time. We know how busy you are. I'm going to jump right into it. We hash out this Giant stuff every week, nonstop. Yeah. It's been a rough, Dan, it's been a rough 8 or 9 years for the Giants fan base. So the biggest question that we get week in and week out is Daniel Jones, the franchise QB? We've seen a lot of major steps from him this year outside that, maybe that Ram game, but he's working with limited resources. Half his offensive line is down, his starting running backs down, his wide receivers are down. So you study the film, you know it better than anybody else. You played the position for a decade or more. What do you see in Jones overall? What are you seeing? What do you like, in his game?
Yeah, I'd say, first of all, if the season ended today, right, and the Giants had to make a decision moving forward with Daniel Jones or moving on from Daniel Jones, I would say convictingly they should keep Daniel Jones and move forward with him. I think the prism or the vantage point that myself and everybody looks through at Daniel Jones matters here. Do I think Daniel Jones is ever going to be a great quarterback that was, top 6 NFL draft pick? I don't see that right now. Do I think that Daniel Jones could be the franchise quarterback, the starting quarterback for the Giants moving forward after seeing him play for multiple years? My answer is yes. I think the greatest thing this year is progress and the biggest flaw. At least significant progress in the panicking with the football. I remember they took Daniel Jones. What was his biggest issue coming out of college? Panicking with the football. And that was kind of the story through the first 3 years of his career. And that was the biggest thing coming into this season was he going to minimize and or get rid of that? And he's done that. And him doing that has shown me you can, you're fixing what was your greatest issue. Now the Rams game obviously is an outlier, but he has, for the most part, valued the football. I don't say protect the football. I think you protect your kids. I don't think you could ever be a great quarterback in this league if you protect the ball, because it's got to be put in harm's way, but you can't be careless with it. So he's valued the football more this year. I think he's thrown the ball downfield well this year, which is something he's done better. He's done in the past. They just have better people to do it to or do it with this year. I loved this past weekend where they used him as an athlete way more. I think that needs to be part of his game moving forward consistently. So
yeah, no doubt.
You got to be encouraged by his performance.
Yeah, it was. It definitely, I'm a season ticket holder, and the fans definitely, jumped out of their seat when he made that catch. Everybody was quite ecstatic because all the fans are looking for something to root for,
Sure, yeah, and I think the athleticism is something. He's not obviously the high-end guys that are a Lamar, Kyler, Josh Allen, but I think that they can utilize him in a Ryan Tannehill plus type of way, where, Tannehill's such a great athlete, and they do such a good job of utilizing his athleticism. And I think they can use him. I think he could be, a Ryan Tannehill plus Kirk Cousins type of player. And so it's good to see that. Because here's the question that it's going to come down to. If you choose to go move on from Daniel Jones, we don't want Daniel Jones as our quarterback. And this is coming from a guy that was critical of Daniel coming out of college. Well, who's the option? We all can sit here and say, we'll go into the draft. Where are you drafting? What's it look like? All that stuff. And I think that this year you've got to feel really good about some of the stuff he's done.
Absolutely. And this is Eli, by the way, Dan. Thank you for your time. But quick question. Through your eyes, does Jason Garrett put the best game plan forward to assist Daniel Jones of getting better? Do you see that when you look at film? Is Jason Garrett putting them in the right battles for them to win?
No, he has not. Again, now, if the game plan from this moment moving forward is going to be like the game plan against Carolina, then we're having a different conversation. But I thought that was Jason Garrett's best game as a coach of the New York Giants. 2+ years, or 1+ season essentially, of game planning. I have been adamant that they have been too stagnant. I've been adamant that they don't use enough pre-snap and at-snap motion. I've been adamant that they don't use enough play action and or bootlegs to get Daniel out of the pocket. But that all changed. You know, there was seven snaps of quarterback run against Carolina, 7 snaps of getting him out of the pocket. I still think they can use more at snap motion and more play action pass, up that even more. I still think they can kind of gain numbers advantage in their run game with motion, but this was at least progress for an offensive scheme. And if it's going to look more like it did against Carolina, then, you know, that's a very different conversation moving forward when it's attached to Jason Garrett.
I was shocked. They only did it one time, but they ran an old school Oklahoma, like, read
speed option.
Pick.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I was
down the red zone. Yeah.
I was completely shocked because I'm used to, you know, the RPO or the run pass up. I mean, he actually flipped that thing like it was Jamal Holloway at Oklahoma in the 80s. And I was like, where did that come from?
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's part of one of those 7. You saw design quarterback run. You saw zone read. You saw that speed option. So, I mean, it looked like a totally different offense, candidly. It looked like an offense that, again, a little bit of Buffalo, a little bit of Baltimore, a little bit of Arizona, a little bit of college sprinkled to it. So, I just think it fits their quarterback skill set. It minimizes some of the flaws of the offensive line. And I think it gets, you know, players out in space. And that's a big step forward for this offense.
Does he get better with these tools coming back? Because it seems like, you know, each week he's shorthanded with something. So I would think the projection for him would even be, or the ceiling could be a little bit higher if he gets some of these bodies back.
Is this Daniel or Jason Garrett?
Daniel.
Yeah, I think so. You know,
Yeah,
I
exactly.
think
Or both, Dan.
Yeah.
Maybe both.
Yeah, I mean, it has to start with Jason Garrett, right? Because you cannot make a realistic evaluation of the player unless the coach is putting in the player to in positions to play to their strengths while also not exposing them to the things that they don't do well, right? So it always has to start with the coach doing his job, and then it moves forward to the player. Yeah, I think, you know, if Kenny can come back and get healthy, and Kadarius, we've seen, you know, 6 quarters or something of Kadarius at kind of health, you know, so far this season, where he's actually been part of the offense and he's looked like a really important player. Saquon is part of that as well. So, yeah, I think that the more people that come back, the more you could get a real understanding of what you have at the quarterback position and who you have at the quarterback position. So, but I think indifferent of that, candidly, like if I'm, because I'm looking at this as a situation where the quarterback is not playing with the full deck, so to speak.
Sure.
I'm just watching the quarterback in and of itself. And we've never questioned, or I have never questioned, can Daniel play? No, I've never questioned that. Can Daniel be very accurate with really good ball placement? I never questioned that. Can Daniel throw with anticipation and timing? I've never questioned that. The 2 things that have been questions about Daniel Jones for me are, 1, will you panic with the football under pressure? That's where he's taken a step forward this year. So I don't care about if he doesn't have X player, because that's a controllable thing. And the second thing would be when number 1 wasn't open. Number 2, number 3, have you done a better job of getting off and off that guy that you're locking on? Hey, it's cover 2 at the line of scrimmage, and I got this in route backside, and I know if I stare to the right and bring that backside linebacker, that in route should be open. That's my number 1. And I do all that, and number 1's not open. The will linebacker didn't listen to my eyeballs. Are you doing a better job of getting to the second and third guy? are you not assuming what to do with the football? I say this, quarterbacks should predetermine where they're going to go with the ball. That's how you play fast. You just can't assume where you're going to go with the ball. And those are the two things for me when it's come to Daniel that I've wanted to see this year. Those have nothing to do with the other people. Those have everything to do with how Daniel operates as a quarterback. And that's where I speak with conviction that, yeah, I think that he's done a good job with that. So you'd love to have those guys back, no doubt. But as long as he keeps making progress in those two specific flawed areas, I feel good about him moving forward.
Okay. Go ahead, Spiro. You got something, right?
Yeah. Hi, this is Spiro. Dan, how we doing? Love your work. So what I want to know is, when you're assessing a quarterback, and I know we just talked about, not having weapons, but I'm going back to a tweet that you just sent last week. When you have a great offensive line, everybody's strengths are amplified. And when you have a weak offensive line, the weaknesses are magnified. So right now, you take away Andrew Thomas, his backside guy, you lost Nick Gates, your starting center. You see guys like Mahomes struggling and Wentz last year. How hard is it to assess a quarterback and their skill set when everything's breaking down in front of them?
Yeah, it's nearly impossible. I've been in television for 3+ years. One of my almost goals, so to speak, was to truly get people to understand that quarterback is a dependent position. You are dependent on the people around you. Remember 30 years ago when everyone would say, well, the quarterback just makes everybody around him better, right? Yep. And it was because that's because football was played in a phone booth, so to speak. Nowadays when football is much more perimeter based, much more rules friendly, it's flipped in my opinion. It's much more about everybody else around the quarterback making the quarterback better. And that's why I think we've seen guys like Patrick Mahomes and a Josh Allen kind of step forward. Now, the quarterback's still got to be great. And yes, there's moments where he elevates the third string receiver and all that stuff. But so I think it's very difficult to get a fair judgment on what a quarterback is, because we all want the quarterback that covers up issues, right? That he's an eraser. We all want that guy that, hey, when the left tackle's out, he can still go play good football and lead us to a win. Well, that's the $40+ million guy, right? But the best evaluation, the best evaluation of a quarterback is what does he do when the pieces are around him? Because if he's just good, then you go, well, then this guy doesn't take us to a different level. But when he plays special or great or elite or you win because of, when the pieces are around him at a high level, that's when you go, yep, we got our guy, right? I think the greatest time you evaluate a quarterback is when he does have a good to really good supporting cast. And I just know when you have a bad offensive line, it affects your play calling, it affects your quarterback's timing, it affects his confidence in the people around him, it affects his confidence in himself. So I think it's very difficult to get a fair evaluation on who or what the player actually is.
Love it.
Is there somebody that you would plug in this situation currently that you would think that could succeed? Because right now I find it hard to believe that any quarterback can succeed with practice squad players and bottom third offensive line.
Yeah, I'll take out the handful of humans that are different guys, right?
Right.
Tom and Aaron and Russell, those guys are different cats. But if we're taking the top 6 or so out, and we're saying the guys that live in like a 7 to 13 world as far as quarterbacks. So you're talking Derek Carr, you're talking Matt Ryan, you're talking Kirk Cousins. Those guys are Tannehill. Those guys are a little bit more, dependent on, hey, what's the play caller? Is he a good play caller? Do we have a great scheme? Do we have a great guy, who really can dial up plays? Are we healthy around me? Am I getting protection? Do I have difference makers on the perimeter? Is our run game healthy? Does my defense suck? So, those are all variables I feel like impact where we slot guys. No, I think that probably a Tannehill would come in and play probably a tick better. Now, is that because Tannehill's got 6,000 to 8,000 reps in the NFL? Maybe that's part of this conversation as well. Daniel's in his second year of a new offense. It's really his first year with an offseason. So that's part of this conversation as well, right? So I don't know if there's a ton of guys that will go in and you'd feel better about, but I think a lot of those guys we know, Daniel is still somewhat of an unknown because he's not consistently proven that he can play.
Absolutely.
No, that's perfect.
Yeah.
So really quick, I just want to go backwards a little bit to the play where
Backwards?
Daniel Jones. Yeah, just a little bit. Just to play where Daniel Jones got concussed. A lot of people say that is a bad call or play call on Jason Garrett. I see a guy fighting, but at the end of the day, when you look at the film, you kind of see everyone kind of just blocking and not knowing where Daniel Jones was going to go. Through your eyes and your film work, do you feel like that's a broken play or a terrible play call, or was that Daniel Jones trying to make something happen at that goal line?
I think it's a really good play call, and I think it's a really good play by Daniel Jones. Okay.
Awesome.
That play call is something where in the huddle, you tell everybody it's the run play, right? Let's say it's, hey, 0 close 22, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the only person that thinks they're carrying the football is Daniel Jones. You don't tell the offensive line, you don't tell the back, because that's what really gives the sell to the defense of the tailback has the football. You don't want anybody thinking, hey, I might keep this ball, because then there's a natural let up. All right. So number one, I like the play call. Number two, I love that Daniel Jones is trying to go score. I mean, you're in a ball game in that moment. You're on the road with the team that's really good. That is not first down and you're scrambling at your own 40-yard line and you're trying to go lower your head for a 4-yard gain, right? That would be a stupid play. But there are moments when quarterbacks, you got to go try and go get either a first down or you got to go try and score. And that's one of those moments where you got to go try and score there in that moment, because what was that, second down or third down?
Yeah,
I think that was the fourth, no? If I'm not mistaken.
No, it was second down. Yeah, it was
It was
second down.
second? My apologies.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, because they won in on the fourth. They won in on the fourth.
Right.
So that was about second, third down.
So you got to go try and score in that situation. It's second down. You're thinking I only got one more chance down-wise to maybe go get this. And he's not diving from the 4. He's putting his head down at the 1.5 yard line. So, yeah, I thought it was a good play call and the right play by Daniel. It was just a really good play by Dallas defensively, and it was just unfortunate the hit that he took on his helmet.
I thought he would have made it if he went for the pylon. He kind of turned it up and got whacked.
Yeah, sometimes you got to know yourself, though. I don't. Those guys on defense can run. And so in that split second, you're trying to make a decision: can I beat them or do I try to run through them? And it shows.
And his speed, he's beating a lot of guys. So,
Dan, one more thing about Daniel Jones, and then we'll carry on. But do you see Daniel Jones being a top 15 quarterback in this league? Do you see him actually progressing? Because, again, he was known for turning over the balls. He seemed to have that corrected a little bit. He's known for panicking in the pocket, but he seems to have that a little bit corrected as well. Do you see Daniel Jones taking the Giants to the Super Bowl and being a top 15 quarterback in this league?
I think that's a little bit of a stretch for me, taking him to the Super Bowl and a top 15 player. I think he can flirt with that top half of the league, but that has to be one of those situations that I talked about. Hey, you got to have a really good defense, okay? Like, you got a defense that's going to play complementary football. We got to have an offensive coordinator that brings a very good offensive scheme. I got to have that guy that not only has a scheme, but also he knows how to call that scheme. He's a really good play designer and play caller. We got to have a good offensive line and pieces around me and a complementary run game. I think if you have those, and my guy Marcus Spears, he calls it being insulated. If you've got those insulated aspects, then yeah, I think he could flirt with being a top 12, top 16 guy. But I think that I don't ever see him being a guy that the Giants – this is how I rate my quarterbacks, guys, because we always get into these conversations of, is this person elite? Is this person a franchise? I don't know what that even means. Is quarterbacks, does your team and organization win because of you? Does your team and your organization win with you? Does your team and organization win in spite of you? Or does your team and organization lose because of you? And I think Daniel Jones can be a guy that the team and organization wins with.
Yeah,
Awesome.
that's a very
Thank you
good
for
point.
Well, I
Absolutely.
want to run with that a little bit myself, Dan, because here's the thing. I'm sure you've watched 7 weeks of film on the Giants. They still can't score. They're terrible in the red zone. Like, is
Yep.
this, Jason Garrett being too conservative? We got Rudolph, who's got 41 touchdowns over 10 years. Like, they still can't score. And for the life of me, this past weekend, I know they were pounding on the Panthers, but they ran the ball up the gut 2 times and didn't make it. So I had to look it up to make sure. I mean, the Giants are ranked 25th in rush offense and 26th in scoring in the red zone. Like, they're pathetic at the in the red zone or extended red zone, depending on, I guess, who you are, what team you call it.
Yeah.
I mean, like, at the end of the day, this team can't score. So, and I sit here and we talk about it week in, week out. We have, like, they don't use the tight end. So how do they score more? What's the hang up?
Well, the red zone's about 2 things: plays and people. Okay. Great red zone teams. There's the philosophy that great red zone teams run the football. Sure, every good offense runs the football. The red zone is about how creative you can be. How creative can you get to make things easier to attack? Because that's when you get game plan specific down in the red zone. There's teams that are going to play a certain coverage or 2 or 3 coverages, 20 to 20, right? Yeah. And then when you get into the red zone, everything's different. They'll play a combo coverage or a bracket coverage or zero blitz, or, they'll play a completely different coverage indifferent of who they are identity-wise, 20 to 20. That's where coaching comes into play. Game design, game plan design, play design comes into play. That's when you become a difference maker as a coach. And the Giants don't have that with Jason Garrett. You great, like, the best red zone guy I've ever was around was Gary Kubiak. Now, Kubes was brilliant in the middle of the field as well, but he would spend so much time figuring out, okay, if I put this formation and this personnel grouping on the field, what am I going to get out of the defense? Likely. Okay, that is different. Where's the weakness? Where is the weakness for what they're going to try and do? How do I make us scoring in the red zone the easiest I can, right? And that's something the Giants don't do well. And then it becomes about people. I was part of the Detroit Lions when we had Calvin Johnson. Mm-hmm. We were really good in the red zone because Calvin changed.
That must be nice, right?
Right? Calvin, we could put him up by himself, and they'd have to have a lean coverage on one-on-one routes. Or I was with the Colts when we had Reggie Wayne. Same thing down in the red zone. We put Reggie out there. Reggie was smart enough, and we'd have signals depending on what leverage the defensive back was playing on, or what route he would run. Inside leverage, hey man, give me the fade. Outside leverage, give me the slant. Off leverage, I'm going to sell the fade and come back to the pylon, right? So Reggie would signal stuff to us. They don't have that guy that is a real. I mean, Kenny's maybe got a little bit of a chance, and we could say Rudolph, Kyle's been that guy, but I don't know if Kyle's the same player he was 4 years ago either. He's not.
Sure.
Yeah. By the way,
schematically,
listening to who you throw the ball to, Dan, it must have been in your contract. You're like, okay, I'm not throwing the ball unless I got Hall of Famers lined up on the outside.
Yeah, I was, man, I played with Calvin Johnson. I played with Andre Johnson. I played with Reggie Wayne. Like I was fortunate to be around some pretty darn good receivers. Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
Hell yeah. Hey, so one more last round of questions, and I'm sorry, Spirit, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No worries.
Just one more last round of questions here. I just want to throw something at you and answer the best way you can. But, if the season ended today, you're John Mara. What would your focus be on the offseason if the season ended today right now? What would your first focus be?
That's a
call.
Yeah. I'd sit down and be very critical with my head coach of, is the culture a culture that I think can win now and win in the long term. I'm not trying to be the I want to win. I don't necessarily believe that you have to, be the toughest guy on the planet or the softest guy on the planet. Do we have a culture that is leading us towards reshaping and winning in the future on a consistent basis? Has our general manager done a good enough job of supporting this team with talent? The vision that he sat down with me 2 years ago and told and sold me on. Has that vision come true? Because if not, I got to get a new general manager. Because if not, I got to get a new general manager because you told me X. And if X has happened, great, let's move forward. But if X has not happened, then I got to find a different person. Same with my head coach. When I hired you 2 years ago, you told me we were going to be a team that didn't beat ourselves. Well, that hasn't been the case this year, as if the season ended today, right? And so I don't need wordplay. I want my actions to follow the words. I got to sit down and see if Daniel Jones is going to be the guy that we move forward with in the future. My answer would be yes. Okay, for Daniel Jones to move forward, what is the biggest thing we need offensively to allow him to play well? Well, we got to continue to add to the offensive line.
I like that.
I have to ask myself, do I want Saquon Barkley to be signed to a long-term contract extension? If the season ended today, my answer would be no, and that would be an easy answer for me. Saquon's a phenomenal talent. He's a phenomenal kid. I got to do my job.
Walking away from him though.
But you like if we look at Carolina.
Yeah.
Look at Carolina.
Right. Absolutely.
McCaffrey's phenomenal. He's hamstringing that football team right now, and he's phenomenal, right?
Yeah.
I got invested to the offensive line, and I got a hit, okay? I got to sit down and ask, is Jason Garrett the guy? Because I'm tired of watching offenses like the Cleveland Browns and the Baltimore Ravens and the Buffalo Bills and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Los Angeles Rams. And I'm tired of watching all these offenses execute at a really high level and score a lot of points and us not be them. How do we get to be them? Is Jason Garrett the guy that puts us in that class?
Doesn't seem like it.
No, definitely not.
He puts me to sleep.
Yeah, so like you got to ask, listen, everyone gets so sensitive when you talk about, listen, this is a high stress job. You know what you sign up for. You know what you sign up for. So if you're not cutting it, you're not cutting it.
Yeah.
Amen to that. Amen to that.
Last question for me, Dan. So as an offensive coordinator, we've seen, we've talked about his limitations as an offensive coordinator in Garrett, but we've also seen him develop 3 good quarterbacks under him now. How much of the offensive coordinator's job is to develop a quarterback? Like we've seen now Daniel Jones progress, Dak Prescott progress. We saw Romo progress under him. How much of that is on the offensive coordinator to progress and make their quarterback better for the long term?
Did we lose him?
You lose him?
Dan, still there, Dan?
Might be in a bad spot.
Dan, you there?
We can't hear you.
I was really looking forward to it.
Oh, I think his mic got muted there. He's muted. Hold on. I think your mic is muted there, Dan.
Yeah, I think you're muted, Dan. It was such a good answer that he's preparing for it.
He was so focused in giving that answer that
I know. I can, like I said, I can see him there, but it says his mic's on mute. You know,
so you know what?
He might have another call coming in too.
Correct. Yeah. Correct. Yeah, he said 6:30.
All right. Well, listen.
You know what I really like about what he said?
Oh, there he is. Oh, he might come back.
Sorry.
That's all right. We got you now.
Can you answer that last one if that's okay, Dan, or you have a little time?
Yeah. What was the last one? Was that what was the last question?
So my last question to you was Jason Garrett. We've seen him now develop quarterbacks underneath his tutelage. While he's a limited offensive play caller, we've seen Dak Prescott grow. We've seen Tony Romo grow. We've seen Daniel Jones grow under him. How much of offensive coordinator's job is to grow a quarterback like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point. I would say it's the latter kind of responsibility. I mean, the greatest responsibility of an offensive coordinator is to, in essence, design an offense around the skill set and the talents of the people that he has, not just the quarterback. It can't only just be about the quarterback, right? It's got to be about every piece.
For sure.
You really want the quarterback coach to hone in and focus on that development. Now, development is attached to what I'm asking you to do and what I'm not asking you to do, for sure. I think Jason Garrett is done his track record as far as those players has done a good job. Now, we also don't know what those guys would have been with somebody else, right? Like
Mhm.
you talk to anybody about Tony Romo early on, and they're like, yeah, Tony was special early on. I was with Kellen Moore, and I remember asking Kellen Moore about Dak Prescott, and he was like, yo, this kid's going to be good. So, I think that it's certainly attached to it, and it's an important part of it, but it's not the most important part of their role.
Fair.
Awesome. Thank you.
Hey, Dan, I'm going to wrap it up with this one. What's your thoughts about Monday? Because we're coming full circle on your time. I know you got, commitments, and I don't want to leave you out there too long in your car. The Chiefs are having some struggles. Mahomes is turning the ball at an alarming rate for him. He's got 11 turnovers for the first 7 games. I looked at his stats from 2018 to 2020. First 7 games, he only turned the ball over 7 times in 3 years. He's already got 11 turnovers now. Does this kind of make the game a little bit more interesting, maybe? Because the pass rush for the Chiefs hasn't been there, and Mahomes is a little banged up. So what's your expectations on Monday?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, can the Giants go down there and win this game? No question.
Okay.
I think, defensively, the Giants are built philosophically and schematically to do what the Chiefs have so struggled with this year. And Patrick is be patient and be hard-headed and be disciplined and run the football and take the checkdowns. The Giants are actually, we did this on NFL Live today. They're the 6th worst defense in the NFL when it comes to completion percentage for a quarterback.
Wow.
They give up 70% completion to a quarterback. But that's what they want. They want quarterbacks to just take these completions, and play that patient, deliberate, boring style of football. Well, that's what's got Patrick in trouble this year, is he's been unwilling to do that. So who kind of wins, in that matchup is a huge story of this game. I think the edge rushers for the Giants can really be a huge part of this game, because the tackles for Kansas City are not playing good football. Ojulari's starting to play good for the Giants. So, I think those edge guys can eat up those tackles and kind of win. If they do that, that's going to help. If the Chiefs are going to constantly play man coverage on defense, I did this on NFL Live again this week. Quarterback run is going to be a huge part, man. It will be a huge part of this game. I think the Giants can match up favorably against the coverage unit of Kansas City. So, I'm hoping, candidly, that the Chiefs fix some of their issues. But if they don't, and they haven't this year, if they don't, the Giants can win the game. Absolutely.
Awesome.
Well,
Thank you.
Well, that just made the rest of my week.
Well,